do a short kirtan for 5 minutes and then we'll begin. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivara Dhare Jaya Girivara Dhare Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivara Dhare Jaya Girivara Dhare Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanchari Yamuna Tira Vanchari Yamuna Tira Vanchari Yamuna Tira Vanchari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Braj Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yashodanandana Braj Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari Gandharvika Giridhari Gandharvika Giridhari Gaura Hari Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari Gandharvika Giridhari Gandharvika Giridhari Gaura Hari Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Anantade Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Anantade Jaya Nitai Gaur Sundar Jaya Nitai Gaur Sundar 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya, Srila Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Srila Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Srila Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadadikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauri Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langhayate Giram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langhayate Giram Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Harihi Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So let's begin today's discussion. Aditya Ramesh Prabhu, how was your social exam?
Fine, Prabhuji.
Very good. And we have Akshay Prabhu joining us for the first time today. Akshay Prabhu, can you please unmute yourself and give a short introduction about yourself so that others can get to know you? Akshay Prabhu, we are not able to hear you. You have to unmute yourself. Now we are not able to hear you. Okay, it seems there's some problem in your audio setup. We are not able to hear you. Absolutely no voice is coming from your side. Try to see if your audio setup can be fixed up. Okay, we'll wait for 1 minute. You asked us to wait. So yes, you are audible, but you have to increase your volume, Akshay.
What about now?
Little better, but can be still better.
Prabhuji, what about now?
Better, we can hear you.
Okay, so Hare Krishna Prabhuji, my name is Akshay and I'm a first year engineering student. I currently study in VIT Bangalore right now. And yeah, it's pretty.
And how did you get to know about this session?
My mother is part of one of the other sessions, so she's the one who made me join this.
You are the son of Dakshayani Mataji, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very, very nice. So very, very happy to welcome you in this session of budding devotees whom I see upon as the future of ISKCON. All of you who are joining these sessions, you are the future of ISKCON. So The mission of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya is basically in your hands. So you all have to be very, very sincere, very, very serious. You're the representative of our society, so you have to be very focused in life. You need to know what you want to do in life and then pursue it under the guidance of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra without doing much extra endeavor. So welcome all of you again. And I was thinking that from next session we can start something. Till now what we have been doing is that we have been reading this book Second Chance, and then we have been sharing our realizations, and some of you are also posting your sadhana. Some of you are not posting your sadhana, but some of you are posting your sadhana. Those of you who are posting the sadhana, it's very difficult for them to get sidetracked from the path of spiritual life, because when sadhana is public, then one has that subtle accountability in them. They feel that, yes, I'm doing sadhana, devotees are kindly, mercifully observing me, so I have to be sincere. So those who make their sadhana public, they do not make mistakes in spiritual life. Those who don't make their sadhana public, they will always remain struggling. And some days they'll chant, some days they'll not chant. Nobody is to see, nobody is to ask, nobody is to know. So spiritual life means we should hand over our privacy to someone else, to some senior devotee. And they should basically make us very, very favorably inclined towards Krishna consciousness. So reporting sadhana is very good. Some those of you who are reporting, you are certainly progressing. We can see that. So we request all of you to post your sadhana. Most of you are chanting around 4 rounds now, 4 or more than 4. Congratulations for that. However, from next session onwards, we want to start a new kind of an exercise. We are going to pick up some topics from Bhagavad Gita. It can be something like fear. It can be anxiety. It can be lust. It can be greed. It can be anger, or any topic we can choose. And each of us will have to give a short presentation on that topic for 4 or 5 minutes. And if you go to the appendix of Bhagavad Gita, you will see these kind of topics are there. And next to it, the verses of Bhagavad Gita which are related to these topics are also mentioned. So suppose if you take greed, so there will be 4 or 5 verses in Bhagavad Gita on greed. So you can read all the verses, you can read all the purports, make some points, and next class, you can just give a short presentation for 4 or 5 minutes maximum on the particular topic. So in this way, we will cultivate the art of presenting Krishna conscious philosophy. For that, we also ourselves have to read. Otherwise, we'll not be able to understand or speak anything. So in this way, we'll train up ourselves as preachers also of Krishna consciousness. And secondly, I would request all of you to engage in some book distribution activity. Every Saturday, under the leadership of Abhay-charan Achyut Prabhu, who is somehow not today in today's session. But all those of you who know Abhay-charan Prabhu, I would like to let you know that today is his appearance day, today is his birthday. So please find out some time to personally call him and wish him. So every Saturday, Abhay-charan Prabhu and other devotees, they go to Marathalli Bridge to do book distribution. And from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., 2 hours, they do book distribution. So those who are in Bangalore and those who can, they should join this activity. Some 10, 15 devotees go. For 2 hours, they do book distribution. A lot of enthusiasm is there. Many books are being distributed. Book distribution is a very nice purification activity. It makes us realize our true position. When we are sitting in the comfort of our homes, when we are getting everything what we want, we feel that the whole world revolves around me. But when we actually go out for book distribution with the Bhagavad Gita in hand and somebody just scolds us or humiliates us, we come to know who we are actually and what is our actual value in this world. However, when somebody takes a book from us, that feeling cannot be described in words. you will really feel that you are a part of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya or the pastimes of Lord Krishna. You'll really feel that this book was meant to go to that person, and I was the instrument. I was just standing here with that book. Somehow I have become instrument in the movement of Srila Prabhupada, in the movement of Lord Chaitanya, in the movement of Krishna, the Sankirtan movement. And that feeling is very ecstatic, very blissful. One cannot describe it in words. So all those who can, every Saturday, please try to go out for book distribution. Those who cannot come down to this area, Marathalli, then you can always take some books from the center or have it couriered to your place through us. Always keep some books and have a weekly target of distributing at least one book or two books. In this way, the fact that we are not able to regularly meet, so we are not having physical association, we are not able to honor prasadam together. So that fact or that disadvantage which we have due to the corona circumstances, that disadvantage will be solved if we can do two things. Three things actually. Number one, if we can all chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, fixed number of rounds, minimum 4 rounds every day. Number two, if we can kindly get engaged in this preaching training or preaching activity, which we are starting from next week, small, 3-4 minutes topics, see others, learn from others. And lastly, if we can all engage in book distribution, if we can do these three things, then we'll make very, very rapid advancement in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so let's start today's session. I will share my screen now. Are you able to see my screen? 1 second. Able to see the screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. The realm of the senses. Who would like to read first?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mohan Prabhu, you can read the first part. The realm of the senses, please.
Okay. Chapter 11, the realm of the senses. You can hear me now clearly, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. The Yamadutas continued above the 5 senses of perception, the 5 working senses, and the 5 objects of the senses in the mind, which is the 16th element. Above the mind is the 17th element of the soul, the living beings himself, who is cooperation with the other 16th, enjoying of the material world alone. And the living being experience 3 kinds of situations, namely happy, distressful, and mixed. The subtitle body is endowed with 16 parts of 5 knowledge acquiring senses and 5 working senses and 5 objects of the sense gratifications. And the mind, this subtle body, is an effect of the 3 modes of material nature. It is composed by insurmountably strong desires. Therefore, it causes the living entity to transmigrate from one body to another in human life, animal life, and life as a demigod. When the living entity gets the body of the demigod, he is certainly very jubilant. When we get a human body, he is always in lamentation, and when he demigod, he is certainly from where when he gets demigods, gets the body of the animals, he always afraid. When he gets the body of animals, he is always afraid in all conditions. However, he is actually miserable. His miserable condition is called some Samsmriti or transmigration in the material life. The fully embodied living entity, inept at controlling his senses and mind, is forced to act according to the influence of the modes of material nature. Even against his desires, he is like a silkworm that uses in the own saliva to create a cocoon on the tin becomes tempered in it with a possibility of getting out of the living entity traps himself in the network of his own fruitive activities and then can find no way to release himself. Thus he is always bewildered and repeatedly he dies. No living entity can remain unengaged even for a moment. One must be acted by his natural tendency according to the three modes of material nature. Because this tendency forcibly makes him work in the particular way. The fruitive acts as living beings transforms when pious or impious are in the unseen cause for the fulfillment of his desires. This unseen cause is the root of all living entities' different bodies. Because of his intense desire, the living entity takes birth in the particular family and receives a body like the mother's, father's, and thus the gross and subtle bodies are created according to his desiring, as his desires. Since the living entity is associated with material nature, he is in an awkward position. But if in the human form of life he is taught how to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, this position can be overcome. Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.50 55.
Thank you. Very, very nice point. The Vishnu Dutas, Akshay Prabhu, I think he's joining for the first time, so I'll take this opportunity to inform him that we are reading the Ajamil pastime, where Ajamil becomes a very, very sinful wretch, marries a prostitute. Earlier he was a Brahmana, but one day in the morning he goes out to pluck some flowers and he sees a Shudra and a prostitute embracing each other. So by seeing that, he becomes very lusty. And he did not go and reveal his mind to some senior that this is the problem I'm feeling. He kept the problem to his own self. So therefore, he continued dwelling on that subject matter. He did not seek guidance. He did not seek any help. So he started doing the association of that prostitute mentally. And then after that, he physically brought the prostitute home, threw his wife out, threw his parents out. And in that way, he kept the prostitute home and started doing sense gratification. And finally, he produced 10 children from that prostitute's womb. And his last child was produced when he was 80 years old. So you can just imagine how lusty he was. And the name of the last child was Narayan. When he was dying, when Ajamil was dying, to maintain these 10 children and prostitute, he did all kinds of theft, dacoity, crime, murder, gambling, all kinds of bad activities he did. He lost all his Brahmanic qualities. So when he was dying, somehow or the other, he saw the Yamadutas who had come to take him away. Out of fear of dying, he somehow called out the name of his youngest child, Narayan. But the moment he called out Narayan, in that moment, he actually remembered the true form of Narayan. And he remembered the kind of spiritual practices he was doing earlier in his life, in the earlier part of his life. And simply by that remembrance and by uttering of the name of Narayan once, immediately the Vishnu Dutas came in there and told that because he has taken the name of Narayan, so he's sinless. You can't take him. So after that, the Yamadutas and Vishnu Dutas, they have started to argue and all that. So this verse is basically the continuation of that argument. It says, above the five senses of perception, the five working senses and the five objects of the senses is the mind, which is the 16th element. The 5 senses of perception, 5 working senses, 5 senses in the mind, total 15. Above that is the mind itself. Which is the 16th element, and the mind, above the mind is the 17th element, the soul, the living being himself, who in cooperation with the other 16 enjoys the material world alone. The living being experiences 3 kinds of situations, namely happy, distressed, and mixed. Subtle body, which is endowed with 16 parts, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, 5 working senses, 5 objects of sense gratification, and the mind. So all of us have 3 kinds of body: gross body, subtle body, spiritual body. So this is called as the gross body because you are able to see it, you're able to touch it, you're able to kill it, feel it. Those things which are not visible to us, they are called as subtle. For example, I cannot see anyone's mind. No one can see my intelligence. Nobody without talking to me will be able to see my ego. So mind, intelligence, and false ego comprise or make the subtle body. And then the spiritual body is the original constitutional position of the spirit soul. So the subtle body is an effect of this subtle body is an effect. It said that this subtle body is made of 16 parts: knowledge acquiring senses, working senses, and the objects of sense gratification, and the mind. So this subtle body is an effect of the 3 modes of material nature. Means this subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego, is not spiritual. Many people say, I'm doing meditation to get peace of mind, so therefore I'm a spiritual person. But mind is not a part of the spirit soul. Mind is a material thing. Krishna says in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhume rapo analo vayu kham mano buddhi revacha ahankar ityam me bhinna prakritir ashtadha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, these are my separated material energies, O Arjuna. That means this is material energy of Krishna, and that too separated from him. This is not something spiritual. The spirit soul, mamai vamsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashasthani indriyani. That verse says that the living entity is mamai vamsha, they are my amshas. Krishna is completely spiritual, and the living entity or the spirit soul or the jivatma is spiritual. However, the body and even the mind, even the intelligence, even the false ego, everything is material. So if somebody is saying that I am doing something spiritual just to get peace of mind, that means mind means not spiritual. So if you are getting peace of mind, that means peace of mind is also material. So your so-called practice which you are doing to get peace of mind is also material. It cannot be called as spiritual. Spiritual means that which is pertaining to the spirit soul. These people don't understand. So therefore, the subtle body is the effect of the 3 modes of material nature. It is composed of insurmountably strong desires, and therefore it causes the living entity to transmigrate from one body to another human life, another in human life, animal life, or life as a demigod. When the living entity gets the body of a demigod, he is certainly very jubilant. When he gets the body of a human, he is always in lamentation. And when he gets in the body of an animal, he is always very afraid. In all conditions, sorry. In all conditions, however, he is actually miserable. His miserable condition is called samsriti, or the transmigration of life. Imagine if you go to a office, suppose you are doing some job, and if you go to the office and tomorrow and you work very hard the whole day. First day only they start making you very, very hard. And when you are coming to the office, the next day you have been told that you have been fired, you have been removed, find another job. So next day again you go and find some other job. By Krishna's grace, you get some job. Again you work the whole day there. But next day when you come to the second office back again, the second office also tells you that you are fired. So then on the third day, you go to find a new job, you get a new job, you work there for some time, and then fourth day, when you come to the third office back, the third office also tells you are fired. How many of you will feel that this is a good situation to stay? All those who think that this is a very good situation, please type yes in the chat box. And those who think that no, this is a horrible situation, please type no in the chat box. Yes, please, I want some inputs from everybody. If you think the kind of life which I described, every day searching for job, joining, and then being fired by the end of the day, if you think this is very good, please type yes in the chat box. If you think it's not good, please type no in the chat box. Okay, some people have not yet typed. This sounds very, very ridiculous. Every day I'm going to office, every day I'm being fired, I'll not work on it. Actually, in our material world, we are doing the same thing. Every life we develop some desires. We try to go and try to satisfy those desires. Without our notice, the life comes to an end, and then everything is taken away from us. Next time, again, when we come, we have to start from the scratch. Again, we have to be small and then grow up and go through all those miseries. And then again, continue a life of sense gratification, again die, and again, everything is lost, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mrityu sarva haras chaham, I come as death and take away everything. So after every life, everything is taken away, but still I'm such a foolish person that I want to stay in this material world, which is dukkhalayam, ashashvatam, anityam, asukham. See my foolishness. When I describe it to you in a material example, this sounds very foolish. But actually, since time immemorial, we are simply doing this one. So therefore, the life of a conditioned living entity is very, very miserable always. The foolish embodied living entity, inept, controlling its senses and the mind, is forced to act to the influence of the modes of nature, even against his desires. He is like the silkworm who uses his own saliva to create a cocoon and then becomes trapped in it with no possibility of getting out. The living entity traps himself in the network of the fruitive activities and then find no way to release himself. Thus, he is always bewildered and repeatedly he dies. No living entity remain unengaged even for a moment. One must, by his natural tendency, according to the three modes of material nature, one must act, because this tendency forcibly makes him work in a particular way. The fruitive acts of living beings, whether pious or impious, are the unseen cause and effect, are the unseen cause for the fulfillment of his desires. Okay. The unseen cause is the root of the living entity's different bodies. Because of his intense desire, the living entity takes birth in a particular family and receives the body like mothers or fathers. Thus, the gross and the subtle bodies are created according to his desire. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tejat kante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhav bhavtah. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that whatever form, my dear Partha, the devotee remembers at the time of death, according to that form, he attains a same self-spiritual nature. So if somebody is taking birth in a rich family, because that means he had intense desire, he paid the price through some piety, pious credits. Somebody who wants to die immediately, he also has to go through the cycle of material birth and death. It's not easy. So this is the discussion happening between Yamdutas and Shindutas. Somebody else can read, please, this topic, demands of the senses.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I read?
Yes, Prabhu, please.
The demands of the senses. These verses describe how the living entity becomes entangled in the material body due to the interaction of the material modes of nature. Everyone engages in work with his hands, legs, and other senses just to achieve a certain goal according to his concocted ideas. In this way, one tries to enjoy the five sense objects, namely form, sound, taste, aroma, and touch, not knowing that the actual goal of life is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. Because of disobeying the Lord, the living entity is put into material conditions, and he then tries to improve his situation according to his whims, not caring to follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nevertheless, the Supreme Lord is so kind that he comes himself to instruct the bewildered living entity how to act obediently and then gradually return home, back to Godhead, where he can attain an eternal peaceful life of bliss and knowledge. In this material world, the living entity has a body that is very complicated combination of the material elements, and with this body he struggles alone, as indicated in verse 50 by the words Ekastu. For example, if one is struggling in the ocean, he must swim through it alone. Although many other men and aquatics are swimming in the ocean, he must take care of himself because no one else will help him. Therefore, this verse indicates the 17th item. The soul must work alone. Although he tries to create society, friendship, and love, ultimately no one can help him but Krishna, the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his only concern should be how to satisfy Krishna, how to surrender to him and evoke his mercy. That is also what Krishna wants. As he says in Bhagavad Gita 18.66, Sarvadharman paritrajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Just give up all kinds of concocted religion and surrender to me. People bewildered by material conditions try to be united, but although they strive for unity among men and nations, all their attempts are futile. Everyone must struggle alone for existence with the many elements of nature. Therefore, one's only hope, as Krishna's advises, is to surrender to him, for he can help one become free from the oceans of nescience. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore prayed, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram पतितं माम विषमे भवामुदाव कृपया त्वा पदपनकज शितधूलि सद्रसं विचिन्तया. O Krishna, beloved son of Nanda Maharaja, I am your eternal servant, but somehow or other I have fallen into the oceans of nescience, and although I am struggling very hard, there is no way I can save myself. If you kindly pick me up and fix me as one of the particles of dust at your lotus feet, that will save me. Similarly, Srila Bhakti Vinoda Thakur sings, Anadi Karma Pale Padi Bavaranave Jale Taribare Na Deki Upaya. My dear Lord, I cannot remember when I somehow or other fell into the ocean of nescience, and now I can find no way to rescue myself. We should remember that everyone is responsible for his own life. If an individual becomes a pure devotee of Krishna, he is then delivered from the oceans of nescience. Thus, his life becomes successful.
Thank you. So the purpose of human life is to become Krishna conscious and to use our senses in the service of Krishna. Sarvopadi vinir muktam tat paratven nirmalam rishikena rishikesh sevanam bhaktir uchyate. One has to get rid of all these designations which are very material, like Basically, if not read, at least one has to get detached from such, or one has to stop identifying themselves as all these material designations, such as I am son, I am father, I am man, I am woman, I am cat, I am dog, I am engineer, I am lawyer, I am doctor, I am pilot, I am civil service, whatever. Sarvopadhi, these are all upadhis. You have to get rid of this. If not rid, at least you have to stop identifying ourselves as teacher, professor, collector, doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever. Somebody's son, somebody's husband, somebody's father, somebody's mother. We cannot identify, we should not identify ourselves at the bodily platform. We have to think that we are the spirit soul. And when we come out of this bodily platform and use our senses, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. One of the names of Krishna is Rishikesh. That means the master of the senses. One who uses the senses in the service of the master of the senses, and then we get, that is called bhakti, and then we get transcendental enjoyment. Krishna is the root, one who waters the root of the tree. All the tips, twigs, leaves, branches, stems, trunk, everything is nourished. So simply if we engage our senses in the service of Krishna, our senses who are always demanding day in and day out, when we engage our senses in the service of Krishna, Krishna will be pleased. And when Krishna is pleased, all our senses will be overflooded with ecstasy. And therefore these demands of the senses will stop forever. It's very nicely said here, the living entity becomes entangled in the material body due to interaction with the material modes of nature. In this way, one is trying to enjoy the five sense objects. Because of disobeying the Lord, the living entity is put into material conditions. And then he tries to improve his according to his whims, not caring to follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Very important. When you buy a machine, along with the machine comes a manual. You have to read the manual and you have to try to operate the machine according to the manual so that you don't get hurt and the machine doesn't get hurt. So Bhagavad Gita is the manual of life. Srimad Bhagavatam is the manual of life. So when we are living in the material world, we cannot disobey the Lord's instructions coming in the Bhagavad Gita and behave according to our own whims and fancies. This will make us a criminal. Just like if we are driving a car on the road and if we don't follow the traffic rules, immediately we become criminal. Similarly, if we do not obey the laws of God or the laws of this universe mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, immediately we'll become criminal in the eyes of God. Nevertheless, the Supreme Lord is so kind that he comes himself to instruct the bewildered living entity how to act obediently and how to gradually return back to God. Am I audible? Is my audible?
Yes, Prabhuji, you are audible.
Okay, let's continue. Okay. I just got a message that one of our very, very old associates, Sandeep Kalluri, has joined the session. Sandeep Kalluri, you can unmute yourself and let us...
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we can't hear your voice, Prabhuji.
Are others able to hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
I think Mohan Prabhu, only you are not able to hear. There seems to be some network issue at your end. I'll try to change my... Mohan Prabhu, are you able to hear me now? Mohan Prabhu, are you able to hear me? Okay, now devotees are not able to hear my voice.
I am able to hear, Prabhuji.
Okay, then it seems some problem in Mohan Prabhu's
You're audible, Prabhuji.
Okay. So yes, Sandeep Prabhu, we are meeting after a very, very long time. How have you been? And where are you right now?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, I'm good, Prabhuji. Currently, I'm in my native, Andhra Pradesh.
Oh, very nice. Thank you for joining these sessions. We hope to get your association regularly every week.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay. Let's continue. The purpose of life is to go back home, back to Godhead, and that is only possible when we stop our sense gratification. And that is only possible when we engage it in the service of Krishna. To act obediently. In the material world, the living entity has a body, and that is very complicated. Combination of material elements. And one is struggling in this ocean, he must swim through it alone. Although many men and aquatics are swimming in the ocean, he must take care of himself because no one else will help him. Therefore, this verse indicates that the 17th item, the soul must work alone. Although he tries to create a society of friendship love, ultimately no one can help him but Krishna, the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his only concern should be how to satisfy Krishna, how to surrender to him and evoke his mercy. That is what Krishna also wants. One thing which is to be noted, that we are in this ocean of birth and death, but if somebody has fallen in the ocean, you don't see any shore, you don't see any end, you don't know any directions. You can, no matter how much so expert a swimmer you are, you can swim and swim and swim, but ultimately you will die. You can't do anything much until unless someone comes and picks you up from the ocean of birth and death. So therefore, the people are trying to, the Bhagavad Gita says this world is a dukkhalaya. So they are trying to adjust these modes of material nature to get some happiness out of this world, but they are not getting it. So they're getting more and more bewildered. And nobody can cross this ocean of birth and death also until they ask for help. So that help is being asked here. Ainand tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam bhavam. Kripaya tavapad pankaja stitadhuli sadrisham vichinte. So the devotee is praying to Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya. Though my dear son of Nand Maharaj, I am your eternal servant. That means the person who is praying like this has understood who he is, that he is not a man or a woman or a cat or a dog or an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer or a physician, an Indian, Australian, German, French. No, he has understood that I am not this body, I am the spirit soul. So therefore, he is saying, oh, this beloved son of Nand Maharaj, I am your eternal servant. Why? Because Jivera Swarup Hai Krishnera Nityadas. The constitutional position of a living entity or a spirit soul is that it should do some service. Prabhupada explains this in his lectures by giving an example that we all are doing service. Somebody is serving their boss, somebody is serving their spouse, somebody is serving their family, somebody is serving their state, somebody is serving their country, somebody is serving their planet, somebody is serving their false egos, but everybody is serving. And if someone does not have anybody to serve, they buy a cat or a dog and they start serving the cat and the dog. So service we cannot avoid. But however, even after doing so many services, we are not happy. Why? Because we are not serving the best person who should be served, that is Krishna. So the devotee is saying, I am your eternal servitor. But somehow or the other, I'm not very much bothered about how I fell down. But somehow or the other, I have fallen in this ocean of nescience. It is not natural for me. In my spiritual body, as a spirit soul, I have no birth, no death, no old age, no disease. But somehow or the other, I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. And now I'm struggling very hard and there's no one who can save me. And there's no way I can save. And then he's saying, Kripaya tava pada pankaja stitadhuli sadrisham vichintaya. You kindly pick me up from this ocean of birth and death and place me as one of the atoms of dust at your lotus feet. Only this thing can save me. Only by your help I can be saved. On my own I cannot be saved. This is the essence of the first section of this chapter. Next section is pain and pleasure. Aditya Ramesh Prabhu, can you, you already read, right? Somebody can read. Somebody who has not read.
We'll ask them.
Somebody who has not read till now.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I read?
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Pain and pleasure. Actually, there is no pleasure in the material world. Everything is painful. Everyone is trying to be happy by sensual activity, but the result is unhappiness and frustration. This is called Maya, illusion. Lord Buddha understood the nature of the material pleasure. In his youth, he was a prince, enjoying great opulence and sensual pleasure, but he renounced it all. Sitting down in meditation, he stopped all sensual activities which subject one to the pains and pleasures of this material world. He gave up his kingdom just to teach that sensual activities do not help us attain salvation. Salvation means to get out of the clutches of the pleasure and pain of this world. Buddhism is concerned largely with the predicament of the body. Due to the interactions of the three modes of material nature which are acting on our material bodies, we experience various pains and pleasures. Buddhism teaches that one can be relieved of all these pains and pleasures as soon as one dismantles the combination of the material elements in the shape of the physical body. Nirvana, the goal of Buddhism, is the state attained when a person has finished with the material combinations. After all, pains and pleasures are due to possessing this material body. However, Buddhist philosophy does not provide information about the soul, the possessor of the body. Thus, Buddhism is imperfect. Buddhist philosophy is incomplete, but that does not mean Lord Buddha did not know the complete truth. A teacher may have received his master's degree, yet he still teaches the ABCs to his students. It is not that his knowledge is limited to the ABCs. Similarly, any especially empowered incarnation, Sakya Vesha Avatara, will preach God consciousness according to time, place, and circumstances. The teacher holds his master's degree, but the students may not be qualified to receive the high instructions that the teacher is competent to teach. Therefore, there are different schools of religion like Buddhism and Shankaracharya's Mayavada philosophy. Both the Buddhists and Mayavadis encourage their followers to try to get free of pain and pleasure, which are due to sensual activities. No genuine philosopher urges his followers to pursue sensual activities. Buddha finishes with matter. To achieve nirvana, one must first dismantle the material combination of the body. In other words, the body is a combination of 5 material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And this combination is the cause of all pain and pleasure. So, when the combination is at last dismantled, there will be no more pain and pleasure. Shankaracharya's philosophy is to get out of this combination of material elements and be situated in our original spiritual position. Thus, the Mayavadi's motto is Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman, the absolute, is true and this material creation is false. Shankaracharya rejected Buddha's philosophy, which gives no information concerning the spirit soul. Buddha's philosophy deals only with matter and the dissolution of matter. Thus, the goal of Buddhism is to merge into voidness. Both Buddhism and Mayavad philosophy reveal only partial truth. Shankaracharya's Mayavad philosophy accepts Brahman, spirit, but does not describe spirit in its fullness. Mayavada philosophy teaches that as soon as we become cognizant of our existence as Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, then all our activities come to a stop. But this is not a fact. The living entity is always active. It may seem that in meditation one can stop all sensual activity, but still one is meditating, and that is also action. While meditating on Brahman, the Mayavadi thinks, I have become God. In one sense, of course, it is correct to think I am one with God. For a spirit soul, we are all one with God in quality, but no one can ever become quantitatively one with God. In the Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Krishna declares that the living entities are part and parcel of me. Krishna is completely spiritual, Satchidananda. So each particle of spirit must also be Satchidananda. Just as a gold earring is qualitatively one with the gold in a gold mine. Still, the gold earring is not the gold mine. So the Mayavadis mistake it to think that the part can become equal to the whole. They presume that because they are part and parcel of God, they are God. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32 describes the impersonalists as Abhishuddha Buddhaya. Their intelligence is impure. They are still in ignorance. Mayavadis believe Mayavadis believe that by accumulating knowledge, they become one with God, and thus they address one another as Narayana. That is their great mistake. We cannot become Lord Narayana. Narayana is Vibhu, which means very big or infinite, whereas we are Anu, infinitesimal. Our spiritual magnitude measures 1/10,000th of the tip of a hair. Therefore, how can any sane man claim that he has become God? Shankaracharya gave a hint about Brahman teaching everyone to think, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the spirit self, not the material body. The Vedas agree. One who is situated in mukti or liberation understands perfectly, I am not this body. I am pure spirit soul. But that is not the end of self realization. Next, one has to ask, if I am an eternal spirit soul, what is my eternal spiritual activity? That eternal activity is devotional service to Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita 18.54, Lord Krishna describes how Brahman realization leads to devotional service. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shoshati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Often, big Swamis talk about attaining Brahman realization, but do not remove themselves from worldly pleasures and pains. They involve themselves in humanitarian activities, thinking, my fellow countrymen are suffering, let me open a hospital, or they are uneducated, let me open a school. If someone is really on the platform of Brahma Bhuta, why would he accept any particular place as his country? Actually, as spirit souls, we do not belong to any country. We get a body, and as soon as the body is finished, the connection with a particular country is also finished. The symptom of lamentation reveals that the so-called liberated person has not been cured of his attachment to worldly pleasure and pain. That means he has not become joyful, because one who is joyful does not lament. So many learned sannyasis have fallen down to material activities because not they have not in fact realized Brahman. It is not so easy. As already explained, the influence of the modes of nature is very strong. The living entity entangled in different types of fruitive activities is like a silkworm trapped in a cocoon. Getting free is very difficult unless one is helped by the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Hare Krishna. This was a very, very long but very, very nice discussion. Let's quickly pull out some important points from this: pain and pleasure. First paragraph only hits the point bang on. He says that there's no pleasure in this material world. Everything is painful. And if anybody is thinking that they will, by trying to sensually be happy, by trying to satisfy the senses, I'll become happy, then they are simply in illusion. When they talk about Buddhism, how Lord Buddha lived his life and how he later on renounced everything. See, when somebody is a king or a prince, they are getting some kind of happiness. Now, one can change, just like the Bhagavad Gita says, Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dehinam rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Giving up lower engagements. One may be having some past anarthas or bad behavior or bad habits, whatever we can say, at the gross level or at the subtle level, whatever. One may try to avoid it, but still the desire to execute those activities for which we have practiced either physically or mentally, the desire to do that may still be there. Just like when a patient, when he has some disease, the doctor prescribes, you don't eat such and such thing. But still, the patient is avoiding to eat such and such things as told by the doctor, but still the desire to eat those things is still there. So similarly, the desire to do sense gratification will remain. However, if someone can focus their mind on a higher taste, once somebody can get an experience of Krishna consciousness, then this lower taste is forgotten and one becomes fixed in consciousness, fixed up in consciousness. Basically meaning to say, until one gets a higher taste, one cannot give up a lower taste. Until one experiences a higher happiness, one cannot give up a lower happiness. Similarly, Buddha, although he was a prince, but when he gave up the princely order and he took the life of renunciation, certainly he must be experiencing a bigger happiness which he was not experiencing as a king or a prince. So therefore, he was able to sustain that. And so therefore, we derive a great lesson that leading a sensual life is not happiness. It does not lead to salvation. Real salvation means to come out of the clutches of the modes of material nature. And then Prabhupada describes the philosophy of Buddhism. But the bottom line is Buddhist philosophy does not provide information about the soul, who is the possessor of the body. Buddhist philosophy says, when you die, everything is finished, everything is over, everything is zero, null and void. There is no concept of transmigration of soul and other things. Therefore, Buddhist philosophy is imperfect. But Prabhupada is very nicely clarifying. Buddhist philosophy is incomplete does not mean that Buddha didn't know the complete truth. And Prabhupada is giving an example that a teacher may have received some master's degree, but he sent to the LKG class or the UKG or nursery class, and he is supposed to teach ABCD there. He cannot start speaking the thesis which he has written for his master's. Why? Because the students cannot understand that. Students can understand only ABCD. So when this master's thesis student is telling only ABCD, it does not mean that this master's thesis student does not know anything apart from ABCD. So preachers, when they go somewhere, based on the audience, they preach. According to the time, place, and circumstances, they preach. That does not mean that whatever they have preached, that is the end of the knowledge. So although Buddha never talked about soul, Buddha was simply preaching people to be non-violent and walk the middle path and be in the mode of goodness. Because people were already, in the name of Vedas, doing so much sense gratification. So therefore he said, I don't believe in the Vedas. You just follow what I'm doing. So basically Lord Buddha tricked people into God consciousness. Buddha is an incarnation of the Lord. So he tricked people into God consciousness by making them follow him. And because people were exploiting everybody in the name of Vedas. So he said that I reject the authority of the Vedas. You just follow me. And when people would ask him about soul and God, he would say, first you come up to that level. Right now you are still struggling with meat eating, gambling, in illicit sex and intoxication. You first come up to that level of a spiritual inquiry, then we'll talk about spirit, soul and God. You're not even qualified to have such discussions. Even Lord Jesus Christ told that I want to tell you so many things, but you're not yet ready. You're not yet qualified to hear them. That doesn't mean that Jesus Christ doesn't know anything. The audience was not ready. This Prabhupada is very nicely clarifying. However, in Bhagavad Gita, the audience was ideal, Arjuna, and the speaker was God himself, Krishna. So therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna makes statements like Matta Parataram Nanyat Kinchid Asti Dhananjaya. There is no truth superior to me, O Arjuna. That is what the Bhagavad Gita says. No other scripture is speaking like this. There is no truth superior to me. So, and then Prabhupada talks about the Shankaracharya or Mayavad philosophy. Buddhist school of thought says that there is no spirit soul as such. But the Mayavad school of thought says that I am God, you are God, everybody is God. It is just that we have forgotten that we are God. We are in the process of becoming God, and one day we'll become God. This is another bogus philosophy. But even the followers of Mayavad philosophy or Buddhism philosophy, none of them encourage anybody to lead a life of sense gratification, saying, it's my life, I'll eat, drink, be merry, kal ho na ho. All those kind of dialogues. None of even the bogus philosophies also say that sense gratification is bad. You know why sense gratification is bad? Because the more sense gratification we do, more our body consciousness increases. The more we start thinking that I am somebody's father, I am somebody's husband, I am somebody's son, I am somebody's daughter, I am somebody's I'm man, I'm woman, I'm cat or dog, I'm engineer, I'm doctor, I'm Indian, I'm Australian. The more sense gratification you do, the more your body consciousness increases, and the more you get entangled in the material modes of nature, and the more you start thinking that the purpose of this life is simply to eat, sleep, drink, be merry, simply make better arrangements for eating, better arrangements for sleeping, better arrangement for mating, and better arrangements for defense. Life will become simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending when body consciousness increases, and the root cause of this body consciousness is sense gratification. So therefore, it has been very much condemned. Both Mayavad and Buddhism reveal only the partial truth. The Mayavad philosophy actually starts talking about the spirit soul, but then it confuses the people that spirit soul is God by saying like that. But Krishna very clearly says, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loka. Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The word Sanatana means eternal. He says these living entities are my eternal part and parcels. That means there is no question of one living entity becoming God or God becoming one living entity. Eternally, forever, we are just part and parcels. And Prabhupada makes the comparison gold mine and gold particle. So we are like a gold particle and Krishna is like a gold mine. Qualitatively speaking, we are the same as Krishna. But quantitatively, there is a huge difference. That is what being explained here. And then by practicing the Brahman, many Mayavadis, they say that I'm God and I'm Brahman. But Prabhupada says even understanding Brahman is not easy. And what is the experience of Brahman? Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atman na Shochati na Kanchati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Lavate Param. Someone who has actually understood what is Brahman. The spiritual effulgence which is coming out of the body of Krishna, which is filling up the Vaikuntha planets, and that Brahma Jyoti, the basis of which is Krishna. Because Krishna is there, so his bodily effulgence is there, so Brahma Jyoti exists. And this Brahma Jyoti is being reflected in the sun and the moon. So that is called as Brahman. The all-pervading, omnipresent aspect of Krishna is called as Brahman, or Brahman realization. And what are the symptoms of a Brahman realized person? Prasannatma, always happy. Not running around things, not sad. And how is he always happy? Na shochati na kankshati. He neither laments for something which is lost by him, and neither hankers for something which he does not has. Na shochati na kankshati. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. He is not on the bodily platform. Whether he meets a tiger or an elephant or a cow or a dog or a dog eater or a brahmana or whoever, he always sees them as a part and parcel of Krishna. He sees Paramatma situated in everybody's heart. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. And when he sees everybody in that kind of vision, Mad Bhakti Lavate Pranam, he attains pure devotional service unto Krishna. What is the meaning of seeing everybody on an equal platform? It does not mean that a tiger has come, so I will embrace the tiger, and a Brahman has come, so I will embrace the Brahman. No, that is foolishness. Seeing everybody on the same platform means seeing everybody as a spirit soul. That means if I'm meeting a Brahmana, then I'm saying, oh, here is a nice Brahmana. He has done nice activities in his past life. So therefore, he in this life has been taken birth in the family of a Brahmana. Beef has not been stuffed into his mouth from birth. And he is regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, leading a pure life, pious life, spiritual life. So how can I help him in his Krishna consciousness? I can engage this Brahmana in discussing some subject matter related to Krishna. So in that way, he will progress in Krishna consciousness. Now here is a dog. I welcomed the Brahman. I washed his feet. I cannot wash the feet of a dog. That's not okay. But Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu means I'm seeing here is a Brahmana. He did nice activities. He is in a Brahmin's body. Here is a spirit soul in a Brahmin's body. And when I see a dog, I see here is another spirit soul in a dog's body. Somehow this spirit soul did very, very bad karma. Very, very lusty karma. So therefore, in this life, this spirit soul has become a dog. I cannot certainly call the dog and ask him to give a lecture on Bhagavad Gita or make him sit in the class. No. So how can I help the dog to advance in Krishna consciousness? Okay, I will give the dog some Krishna prasad. Simply by eating that prasad, the dog will advance in Krishna consciousness and in next life will become a human being. So Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu means constantly seeing everybody at the spiritual platform and trying to see what can be done so that the spirit soul will advance in their own journey from their own place, at their own pace, they can advance in Krishna consciousness. That is called Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu. It's a very deep concept actually. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati. This is the definition of Brahman realized person. He is always joyful, blissful. He neither laments for something which is lost. He neither hankers for something which he does not have. Because he has attained Krishna. He has attained, like last line says, Mad Bhaktim Lavate Param. He has attained pure devotional service to Krishna, which is even higher than Brahman realization. One who has $100 also has $10. So similarly, one who has got Krishna, the Brahma Samhita says, Ishvara Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So one who has attained Krishna, who is the cause of all causes, Sarva Karana Karanam. One who has attained Krishna has attained everything actually. So therefore, na shochati na kankshati. He neither laments for anything which is lost. He neither hankers for something which he does not have, because he has already had everything. He has Krishna. And then Samasarveshu bhuteshu. He treats, he does not favor the human beings and kills the chickens and the goats and the dogs and the fish and eggs. Even inside the egg, or even inside the chicken, even inside the fish, he sees the part and parcel of Krishna. So real Krishna consciousness begins at our dining table. I can't say that I am a Krishna conscious person, I'm a peace loving person, but every day for my dinner I'm having meat, fish and eggs. That means I'm not on the Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu platform. I'm loving my mother and father and my brother and sister, but at the same time I'm slaughtering so many animals. Why don't I cut my own brother? Why don't I slaughter my own mother and father and eat them? Certainly they will give more flesh to me. Certainly their flesh may be more tasty also. Why am I killing a cat or a dog or a fish or a hen or an egg? No. I love my parents, I love my family, so I cannot eat them. Oh, but this dog, let's kill it and eat it. I'm a human being, so I have a right to do that. Who gave you the right? If a father has two children, one of them is very intelligent and one of them is extremely useless and dumb, and if you go and propose to the father that anyways this your dumb son, useless son is not doing anything, let's kill him and eat him, will the father allow? No. No matter how dumb the child may be, the father will always love the child. Similarly, all spirit souls are part and parcels of Krishna. Some of them are in human body, some of them are in cat body, dog body, but that does not mean that Krishna loves them less. So having this kind of understanding is called Samasarveshu Bhuteshu. And only such a person can truly practice Krishna consciousness. And then the last paragraph, Prabhupada explains that there are some people, some swamis, fake swamis, who talk about Brahman realization and who have renounced everything in life. But somehow they did not get any happiness in the engagement which they had in the renounced order of life. They became monks, they became sannyasis, they became yogis, whatever you can call them. But after taking that renounced order of life, they were not happy. They did not get any rasa, they did not get any taste. So what these yogis do, they come back in the material world, they come back into politics, they come back and they start opening a hospital, charitable school, orphanage, humanitarian activities. You first of all took sannyas. Sannyas means you have renounced the world. Now sannyas means every thought, word and deed must be for the pleasure of Krishna. But you are not doing that because you are not fixed up on that platform. There's no rasa you are getting because you're fake sannyasi. You're a fake monk. And because you cannot hold up the renounced order of life, so just to get some engagement, you have come down and you have started teaching yoga, you've got into politics, you've started opening schools, colleges, humanitarian activities you're doing. And it seems you get more pleasure in doing that. Very nicely Prabhupada is written. They are uneducated, let me open a school. If someone is really on the platform of Brahma Bhuta, why would he accept a particular place as his country? He sees my fellow men are suffering, my people are uneducated. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Samasarveshu Bhuteshu. His nationalism is not exclusive. For him, everybody on this planet Earth is family. So Prabhupada is pointing out the fallacy or the fakeness in such kind of sannyas. So Prabhupada is saying, actually, as spirit souls, we do not belong to any country. We get a body, and as soon as the body is finished, the connection to that particular country is also finished. The symptom of lamentation reveals that the so-called liberated person has not been cured of his attachment to the worldly pleasure and pain. That means he has not become joyful, because one who has become joyful, he does not lament. Very, very important points. So many learned sannyasis have fallen down to material activities. If someone who has renounced the world and taken sannyas, if he again comes back to material activities, that is considered a fall down. That means they never realized Brahman. They simply said, I am God, you are God, everybody is God. But they never understood that Brahman means, a Brahman realization truly means to become a servant of God and not God. So therefore, Prabhupada says it's not so easy. As already explained, the influence of modes of material nature is very strong. The living entity entangled in different types of fruitive activity is like a silkworm trapped in a cocoon. Getting free is very difficult unless one is helped by the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Daivi hi esha gunamai mama maya duratyaya mame vaye prapadyante maya me tam tarantite. Daivi hi esha gunamai. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, which is called Maya, is very difficult to overcome. Nobody can overcome Duratya. But Krishna says, Ma meviya prapadyante maya metam taranti. But those who surrender only to me, they easily cross beyond it. Krishna says, Ma mev. He doesn't say surrender to Durga, Kali, Shiva, Chandra, Indra, Varuna, Ganesha. No. He says, Mam eva. Those who surrender to me and only me, they easily cross over this Maya. That means the Maya does not trouble them, it does not affect them, they are not influenced by Maya only. So the only way to get out of these clutches of material nature is to surrender to Krishna and become Krishna conscious. So this leads to the next topic of our discussion, which is called spiritual senses. And then concession for all the people, that is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And how we can attain a spiritual body in our next life. So these concepts we will cover in our next discussion. With that, we conclude today's discussions. If there are any questions and comments, they are welcome.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Vivek Prabhu.
With respect to what we just spoke about, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma verse, there is this verse also. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshina.
Yes.
Means sage, by virtue of his true knowledge, will see with the equal vision Brahmana, cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So this is also relatable.
Yes. A Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma is a person who is equally disposed to every living entity, means he is a Pandit, because the Bhagavad Gita says Pandita Samadarshinaha. So Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu and Pandita Samadarshina, they are the same concept. So if somebody can see everybody on the platform of a spirit soul, he is a Pandit. And a Pandit is by default Brahman realized. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. These days the word Pandit is being used very cheaply. Politicians have been given the title Pandit. People who are doing sense gratification, earning money in the name of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, they are called Pandit. But real Pandit means Samadarshinaha. So we have to become Samadarshi to become Pandit. Very nice words. Thank you for pointing it out. Any other questions, comments, reflections? Okay. Then in that case, we'll wrap up today's session. From next session onwards, we will we will give some topics and the verses related to that topic from Bhagavad Gita. Devotees have to read and come, and for 3 or 4 minutes they have to speak on that particular topic, and we will all hear and we'll all try to listen from them, learn from them. In that way, we'll have some activity. Once in a while, we'll do such activities. Apart from that, we'll also try to engage in book distribution activities. Today is Saturday. Abhay Charan Prabhu and team is going for book distribution. Those who can join them should join them. Those who cannot, they can take some books and try to distribute. And finally, please chant Hare Krishna very, very sincerely. We are doing a morning program. We give an opportunity to devotees 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Anybody can join that before 6 a.m. 6 a.m. there is a short japa talk, and then from 6 to 7:30 or 8 or 6 to 6:30, whatever you want, you can chant in the association of other devotees who are chanting. That gives us the enthusiasm to get up early and chant. Chanting is best done when it is done in the Brahm Muhurta. So that is a inspiration that is one activity which I want to request all devotees to do. If all of you want to really hit the Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma platform as early as possible, then waking up early, that means sleeping early and waking up early and attending these japa sessions in the association of devotees is absolutely mandatory. For those who want to experience Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, those who don't want to experience that platform, those who want to remain as it is wherever you are, simply struggling, thinking I'm someone's son, someone's father, someone's mother, some engineer, doctor, cat, dog, Indian, Australian, German. If you want to remain at that platform, then please continue to do whatever you are doing. But those who want to really advance and feel that bliss of Krishna consciousness, those who want to experience a higher taste so that they can give up the lower taste in life, they should try their best to come for these japa sessions. They should try their best to distribute the books of Srila Prabhupada, and they should try their best to preach, chant and preach. And in order to encourage that preaching, from next session, we are trying to give some topics to everybody, and they should read and try to talk about it for 3 or 4 minutes. So with that, I would like to call an end to today's discussion. Thank you very much for your sincere participation. I wish and I hope that all of us will continue our enthusiastic participation. Even throughout the week, we can keep talking to each other. Rather, those who are in Bangalore, my suggestion is that every Saturday, you can try to come to the center only. It is my desire that this session which we have, instead of it being online, it can become a physical session. You can try to come up early Friday evening or maybe early Saturday morning, attend the Mangalarti, chant some rounds with us, hear the Bhagavatam class, take some Krishna Prasad, relax for some time, and then we'll sit for this session. We'll do some chit chat with each other. And in that way, again, you can go back home. So once in a week, you can start thinking about once in a month, like one Saturday in a month, you can book where you can do this activity. Then this is called as a higher taste. When you start getting this higher taste, then slowly you will make it 2 Saturdays a month. And slowly it will become 3 Saturdays a month. And then it will become a natural thing that every Saturday you come. All the contamination which has come throughout the week by going to school, college or office or doing whatever activity I am doing, that contamination can be washed off simply by sincerely chanting in the association of devotees, by hearing the Bhagavatam, by eating Krishna Prasad. So please try for this, aspire for this, that at least once in a month to start with, we should all try to meet. We can also fix up which Saturday we can meet, and then we can plan some nice activities that right from Friday night to Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. We can all together go out for book distribution. We can do some service together. And this sounds this may sound a little overwhelming right now, but trust me, when you will experience this, you'll just feel sorry for yourself that why we didn't try doing this earlier, because this is the higher taste which we are all looking for. So it is my invitation to all of you to come ahead and do this. We'll all be very happy to welcome you, provide you everything, all facilities, all accommodation, in case if you desire to come. So with that, I would like to conclude today's discussion. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,